What if I told you that a leaf from one of the oldest trees in human history is now being studied by modern scientists? Not the fruit, not the famous olive oil, but the leaf most people completely ignore. For thousands of years, the olive tree has been one of the most respected plants in human history. Entire civilizations grew around it. It appeared in ancient traditions, sacred ceremonies, and the daily lives of people across the Mediterranean. Yet hidden quietly among its branches are small, silvery green leaves that most people never think twice about. And that's where the story becomes interesting. Because inside these quiet little leaves are compounds that modern researchers are only now beginning to take seriously. But long before laboratories existed, ancient cultures had already noticed something about this tree. They brewed its leaves into herbal teas. They prepared simple remedies from them, and they passed that knowledge down through generations. So this raises a fascinating question. What would actually happen if you started drinking olive leaf tea every day for 7 days? And what might your body actually notice? Before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel, because olive leaf is only one of many ancient plants whose forgotten stories are now starting to make sense again. And once you see what is hidden inside this leaf, you may never look at the olive tree the same way again. So to understand why this leaf mattered for so long, you first need to look at the tree itself. Scientifically, the olive tree is known as oleuropein. It has stood across the Mediterranean for more than 6,000 years, watching empires rise, cultures change, and generations come and go. Its twisted trunk, silvery leaves, and small green fruits have become symbols of peace, endurance, and long life. In fact, some olive trees are so resilient that they can live for hundreds, even thousands of years. But today, your attention shifts away from the fruit and toward the leaves. Olive leaves are narrow, smooth, and slightly leathery. On the top, they appear soft green. On the underside, they carry a pale silvery color that reflects sunlight. This design actually helps the tree survive intense Mediterranean heat. But what makes these leaves truly interesting is not just how they look, it's what they contain. Inside each olive leaf are natural plant compounds that help the tree defend itself against environmental stress, microbes, and insects. One of the most studied of these compounds is called oleuropein. Oleuropein belongs to a group of plant chemicals known as polyphenols, which are natural substances found in many medicinal plants. Scientists have discovered that olive leaves contain especially high levels of this compound, and this may help explain why traditional herbal systems valued the leaves so highly. Today, researchers continue studying oleuropein and other compounds in olive leaves to better understand how they interact with the human body. But what makes this even more fascinating is that long before modern laboratories ever studied this plant, ancient cultures had already given the olive tree a special place in history. And some of the oldest clues appear in ancient traditions and biblical texts. Across the ancient Mediterranean world, the olive tree was far more than a source of food. It was a symbol of life, peace, and endurance. Entire civilizations grew around olive groves, and the tree became part of daily life, spiritual traditions, and natural healing practices. One of the most well-known ancient references to the olive tree appears in the biblical story of Noah's Ark. After the Great Flood, a dove was sent out to search for land. And when it returned, it carried an olive leaf in its beak. That small leaf became more than a detail in the story. It became a sign of renewal, a quiet signal that the waters had fallen and that life could begin again. For thousands of years since then, the olive branch has been recognized as a universal symbol of peace and renewal. But beyond symbolism, the olive tree also played a practical role in ancient health traditions. In ancient Egypt, olive leaves were used in herbal preparations and natural remedies. Historical records suggest that Egyptians valued the plant not only for its oil, but also for the medicinal properties of its leaves. Greek physicians also took interest in the olive tree. Early medical writings from the Mediterranean region describe how different parts of the tree were used in traditional healing practices. Olive oil was commonly applied to the skin and used in massage, but the leaves were sometimes prepared as herbal infusions and simple plant remedies. In many Mediterranean villages, olive leaves were traditionally brewed into teas, especially during times when people were dealing with seasonal fevers or widespread illness. People didn't understand bacteria, viruses, or immune systems the way modern medicine does today, but they carefully observed the effects of the plants around them. Over generations, certain plants earned trust. Olive leaves became one of them. By the 19th century, historical herbal texts began describing olive leaf extracts being used during outbreaks of illness in parts of Europe. Physicians and herbalists experimented with preparations made from the leaves, believing the plant contained compounds that supported the body during times of infection. Even though these early practitioners did not fully understand the chemistry inside the leaf, their observations sparked curiosity that would eventually reach modern laboratories. Today, scientists are studying the same plant that ancient cultures respected thousands of years ago. But history becomes even more interesting when you see how people actually used the leaf in daily life. As olive trees spread across the Mediterranean, knowledge of their healing uses spread with them. In many traditional cultures, herbal medicine was not written in textbooks or taught in universities. Instead, it was passed from one generation to the next. Parents taught their children which plants could be used for food, which plants were useful during illness, and which plants supported the body in times of weakness. The olive tree slowly became one of those trusted plants. While olive oil became famous for cooking and skincare, the leaves developed a quieter role in traditional herbal medicine. People learned that when olive leaves were harvested, dried, and steeped in hot water, they made a slightly bitter tea. Simple, humble, and deeply familiar. In many homes, that tea became part of how people cared for the body during times of weakness or seasonal illness. In many Mediterranean communities, olive leaf tea was traditionally used during seasonal illnesses. When fevers were common or when infections moved through villages, herbal teas made from olive leaves were sometimes prepared as a simple household remedy. The bitterness of the leaf was not considered unpleasant. In traditional herbal systems, bitter plants were often respected because they were believed to stimulate digestion and support the body's natural cleansing processes. But tea was only one part of the story. In some places, healers made stronger infusions by steeping the leaves longer, drawing more of the plant into the water. In other traditions, fresh leaves were crushed into simple pastes and applied to the skin. And over time, herbalists began preparing tinctures, allowing the leaf to be preserved and used in smaller, more concentrated amounts. Different regions had different methods, but the pattern was the same. People kept returning to the olive leaf when the body needed support. What makes this history so remarkable is how consistent these traditions were across different regions. From Greece to North Africa, From rural villages in Italy to communities throughout the Middle East, olive leaves repeatedly appeared in herbal practices related to supporting the immune system, circulation, and general vitality. Of course, these traditional healers did not have laboratory equipment to analyze plant chemistry, but they had careful observation, and generation after generation, olive leaf continued to earn trust. Today, modern researchers are starting to examine these same traditions more closely, asking a question ancient healers could never answer directly. What exactly is hidden inside the leaf that made people trust it for so long? When you look back through history, you start to notice something important. People trusted plants long before they understood their chemistry. They observed effects first and explained them later. But today, scientists have tools that ancient healers never had. Instead of simply observing the effects of a plant, researchers can now look inside the plant itself. They can analyze the chemical compounds hidden inside the leaves, stems, and roots. And when scientists finally began studying olive leaves in modern laboratories, they discovered something worth paying attention to. These leaves are packed with natural plant compounds known as polyphenols. In other words, the leaf that ancient people once trusted is now being read almost like a chemical map. Polyphenols are substances that plants produce to protect themselves from environmental stress. They help plants defend against microbes, insects, intense sunlight, and other challenges in nature. When humans consume plants rich in polyphenols, those compounds may also interact with the body in interesting ways. One of the most studied compounds inside olive leaves is called oleuropein. Oleuropein is responsible for much of the leaf's natural bitterness, but it has also attracted attention from researchers because of the way it behaves in laboratory studies. Modern research suggests that oleuropein may have strong antioxidant properties. Antioxidants help protect cells from oxidative stress, which occurs when unstable molecules known as free radicals accumulate in the body. Oxidative stress is something scientists often study when looking at aging, inflammation, and cellular health. But oleuropein is not the only compound inside olive leaves. Researchers have also identified other plant chemicals such as hydroxytyrosol, flavonoids, and additional polyphenols that contribute to the plant's chemical profile. And this is where the story starts to connect ancient observation with modern measurement. Because of this combination of compounds, scientists are exploring olive leaf extract in several areas of research. Some studies are examining how olive leaf compounds may interact with microbes in laboratory environments. Other research is exploring whether olive leaf extracts may support cardiovascular health, including circulation and healthy blood pressure levels. There is also growing interest in how these compounds might influence the immune system. However, it is important to remember that much of this research is still ongoing. Scientists continue studying olive leaves to better understand how these natural compounds behave inside the human body. Even so, what makes this research fascinating is how it connects modern science with ancient tradition. For thousands of years, cultures around the Mediterranean used olive leaves because they observed their effects. Now, modern laboratories are beginning to investigate the chemistry behind those observations. And that brings you to the question at the center of this video. What might your body actually notice if you drink olive leaf tea every day for 7 days? To understand that, it helps to remember something important about herbal traditions. Most medicinal plants do not create sudden, dramatic changes. They tend to work gradually, interacting with your body in subtle ways over time. Olive leaf is often described this way: Its compounds slowly move through your system as your body processes the plant's natural polyphenols. Day 1, the first thing you may notice is the taste. Olive leaf tea has a mild bitterness with a slightly earthy flavor. For many herbal traditions, bitterness is actually considered a positive sign. Bitter plants are often associated with stimulating digestion and encouraging the body's natural cleansing processes. As you drink your first cup, the polyphenols inside the leaf begin interacting with your digestive system. Your body starts absorbing small amounts of compounds like oleuropein and other plant antioxidants. You may not feel anything dramatic on the first day, but that is often how herbs work. Quietly, gradually, almost in the background, while your body begins responding in its own way. Day 3, by the third day, you may begin to notice that something subtle is shifting inside your system. Because bitter herbs can stimulate digestive activity, your digestion may feel slightly lighter or more active. Traditional herbalists often describe this stage as the body waking up to the plant. Some people also report feeling a general sense of balance when using bitter herbal teas consistently for several days. Of course, every body responds differently. Some people may notice subtle effects, while others may not feel much change at all. But the interesting part is consistency. In many traditional herbal systems, plants like olive leaf were used for several days or even weeks, allowing the body time to respond gradually. Day 7. After a full week, your body has had repeated exposure to the plant's compounds. At this stage, some people describe feeling more balanced, while others say their body feels better supported during seasonal challenges. Again, these responses can vary widely from person to person. But what makes olive leaf interesting is that both traditional herbal knowledge and modern research point to the same idea. This simple leaf contains compounds that interact with multiple systems inside the body. And if this leaf has made you curious enough to try it, the next question is simple. How do you actually prepare it? If you want to try olive leaf for yourself, traditional preparations are surprisingly simple. For centuries, people used the leaf with little more than water, heat, and patience. The most common method is a simple olive leaf tea. To prepare it, start with dried olive leaves. These can be purchased from herbal suppliers, or in some regions, they are collected from healthy olive trees and carefully dried. A traditional preparation is simple. Place 1 teaspoon of dried olive leaves into a cup. Then pour hot water over the leaves. Allow the tea to steep for 10 to 15 minutes. This gives time for the plant compounds to slowly release into the water. The result is a light herbal tea with a gentle earthy aroma and a bitterness that reminds you this is not just a drink, but a plant, long respected for a reason. Some people drink olive leaf tea once a day, while others drink 2 cups spread throughout the day. In traditional herbal practice, moderation and consistency are usually preferred over large amounts. Beyond tea, olive leaf is also available in other forms. You may find olive leaf powder, capsules, or liquid extracts. These preparations concentrate the plant compounds and are often used in smaller amounts according to product instructions. However, many herbalists still prefer the traditional tea preparation because it is simple and connects you directly with the plant itself. Before adding any herbal remedy to your routine, it is also important to understand how to use it safely. Like many traditional herbs, olive leaf is usually used in moderate amounts. But even natural remedies deserve awareness and balance. Because olive leaf contains active plant compounds, Some people may experience mild digestive changes when they first begin using it. This can include slight stomach sensitivity or changes in digestion, especially if large amounts are consumed. Another point to consider is that olive leaf has been studied for its potential influence on blood pressure and blood sugar levels. Because of this, individuals who are already taking medications related to these areas may want to speak with a healthcare professional before using concentrated olive leaf extracts. Pregnant or breastfeeding individuals should also consult a qualified professional before adding new herbal remedies to their routine. As with most traditional herbs, the key principle is simple. Use moderate amounts, observe how your body responds, and give your system time to adjust. When you look at the story of the olive tree, you begin to realize something deeper. For thousands of years, humans have lived alongside this plant. Entire civilizations grew around olive groves. Its oil-filled lamps nourished families and played a role in sacred traditions. But hidden quietly among its branches were the leaves, simple, narrow leaves that many people today rarely think about. Yet ancient cultures did pay attention to them. Over time, those leaves earned a quiet but lasting place in traditional herbal medicine. Today, modern laboratories are beginning to analyze the very compounds inside those leaves. Compounds like oleuropein and other polyphenols that scientists are still studying. In many ways, this is a fascinating moment where ancient observation meets modern research. And sometimes, rediscovering these plants simply means slowing down long enough to notice that the natural world may still be holding wisdom we almost forgot. If you enjoy uncovering forgotten healing plants, ancient herbal traditions, and the science now rediscovering them, subscribe to the channel. Because olive leaf is only the beginning, and some of the plants still ahead may surprise you even more. The olive leaf is just one small piece of a much larger story. Across ancient cultures, people relied on plants in ways that many modern societies have slowly forgotten. Long before laboratories and pharmaceutical research, communities observed the natural world carefully. They learned which plants soothed the body, which plants supported recovery, and which ones became part of everyday life. Some of these plants still grow all around us today. Hyssop, a plant mentioned in ancient purification rituals. Black seed, a tiny seed that has been respected in traditional medicine for centuries. Frankincense and myrrh resins, once valued not only for spiritual ceremonies, but also for their role in ancient healing traditions. Many of these plants are now being studied again by modern researchers. And as science continues to explore them, we may begin to understand something fascinating. Sometimes the wisdom of the past was never truly lost, only overlooked.